Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. This is Charles with the Exodus Logistics Learning Center, America's #1 dispatcher and freight broker training for beginners. Tonight is Wednesday, July 10th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is our Wednesday edition of our trainings. We usually do Q&A, beginner level training, get all the new people kind of caught up so everyone can kind of be consistent on the same page. Before I begin that, though, let me ask, are there any preliminary type of questions that you may have that you may have wanted answered last time you were on here and you didn't have a chance to have answered? So are there any questions there before we get started?
I have a question.
Yes, Naya?
Naya.
Naya. Okay.
Yeah. Last time you said that the driver has a rest period, a 10-hour rest period, I think, but how long do they drive before they have to rest?
So the drivers, what you're referring to are the drivers' hours of service. So if you are a member who has access to our portal, you could go under, and if you notice in our back office, we've changed things around a little bit. Okay. You notice we have start here when you first come into the portal. We got our orientation, and then we get right into the modules 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we have our tools and resources that you're going to need, secondary, miscellaneous information, and then our exams, right? So over in, I believe it's under tools and resources. It could be under forms and documents, but let's look at tools and resources. No, let's look at forms and documents. I'm looking for the PDF that talks about the hours of service for the drivers, okay? All right, so it will be probably under miscellaneous documents, and it should be down in this area. Otherwise, if not, it will be, I may put it in both locations. So what I'll do is I'll go back, and I'm glad we're going over this because it gives me a chance to kind of tweak the back office and make sure all the resources are at where they should be. So here we are here in our tools and resources, hours of service. And then I do have videos explaining, 2 videos under hours. So if you click, these are hyperlinks. So if you click them, they go to YouTube videos. Like for example, you click that, it gets into explaining hours of service, right? I won't play the video.
You've worked hard to get here, but you're not.
I won't play it now, but so I'll open the PDF. And can you guys see my screen, by the way, before I continue?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is basically the standard hours of service compliance for commercial vehicle drivers and motor carriers. So I'll just scroll down to the area where we need to be, which is property carrying drivers, the rules in the United States. So every driver, so if there's 24 hours in a day, right? The drivers can drive, they can be on duty for 14 of those 24 hours. In other words, being on duty means you're either driving or you're not driving. The truck is stopped, you may be at a rest stop, or you may be at a loading dock being loaded or unloaded, but you're still on duty, but you're not driving, right? So that's a category of on duty. So you can do that for 14 hours. After the first 8 hours of being on duty, you must take a 30-minute break. And it should say it right here, okay? So you got, remember, 24 hours, 14 of which you can be on duty. Within the 14, so let me go to a whiteboard so I can better illustrate it for you. Show the whiteboard here, okay? So as it pertains to, and dispatchers, you don't need to know this like science. This is more for the drivers, but it'll be great for a dispatcher to have a marginal knowledge of it, right? So you can be dangerous, just enough to be dangerous as a dispatcher, right? So we got 24 hours in a day, right? I don't know why I chose red, but anyway. 24 hours the whole day, right? 14 of those hours, the drivers can be on duty. Okay. So that leaves the other 10 hours. So total 14. I mean the total 24, right? 14 and 10 is 24 hours. You with me so far? Okay. So now within the 14-hour realm, 11 of those hours, drivers can drive. They can drive. They can be driving for 11 of those hours within the 14-hour realm. Okay. Now, when their clock gets to a certain limit of the hours, because when you drive, you choose a type of clock, 6-7 or 7-8, right? So 60 hours, and I think it's 7, and then 70 hours and 8. Correct me if I'm wrong, LaDonna. Right?
Yeah, that's perfect, Charles. Yep.
So most drivers will choose the first one, 60 hours. So as you drive and you do on duty hours, your clock is and the number of hours is decreasing. It's being affected by it, right? So when your hours are up, well, first of all, each day, as you do your 14 hours in each day, or your 11 hours driving in that day, you have to do what's called a reset to recycle your hours, a 10-hour reset, right? And then when your total hours are up, you have to do what's called a 34-hour reset, which is 34 hours is a day, 24 hours plus 10 hours. Okay, that's what a 34 comes in at. And to recycle that ELD system and reset their hours back to 60 or 70, depending on if they chose that. Okay, so I did a demo of this a while back with another concept with it, but that's the hours of service for the drivers. They can only drive. The purpose of only being able to drive for so long during the day or during their cycled hours is to minimize accidents. Drivers should not be driving for too long because you get tired on the road, you start to swerve, you cause accidents. There were fatalities, people were dying, things like that. So the FMCSA came out with this ruling to kind of mitigate this concept, because prior to the ELD systems, the electronic logging devices, then prior to that, they were using what's called paper logs, and they were just logging. They were cooking the books, skating the books. There's different terms for it. Raw dog, or something. All these different terms they would use. The truckers were using to renegating their hours and things like that. So, but nowadays the hours are kept electronically, and even electronically being kept, there's a way to log into the back end of that system and still try to and still trick the system, but your likelihood of tricking the system is minimum with the electronic one as opposed to the paper log. You can trick this more so because all you're doing with drawing lines on duty, sleeper berth, driving. You were just doing check boxes as you were doing your hours for the day, on your paper logs, for those of you who are familiar with that concept. So the purpose of the drivers having these logs and keeping track of their hours is to minimize accidents for safety reasons and to make sure the drivers are alert enough when they're transporting freight. They are as alert as possible, and they're driving within the realm of what has been deemed sufficient for them to drive. That's where the hours HOS comes in at, hours of service. Okay. So who asked that question, by the way? I think that was Naya.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
Naya.
Okay. So yeah, so that's how
Thank you.
that works. Now we could do a longer demonstration with that, but that's the gist of it.
Yeah,
Now
that's good.
I
you
feel like they started that 10-hour rule when that lady drove that subway train. She fell asleep at the wheel and drove it up the stairs at the United Airlines.
wow.
It was
That
crazy.
that was that around the same time that the ELD came into play?
Yeah, because all of a sudden, after she was like, well, they had me working 12-hour shifts back to back. They're like, okay, no more than 10 hours for Lyft drivers, truck drivers, everybody.
Right.
She caused like $8 million worth of damage.
Right. So your 30-hour, your 34-hour reset is required to start the 60 or 70-hour cycle over again. So right here is 60 hours. So the drivers cannot drive after being on duty for more than 60 hours in 7 days or 70 hours in 8 days. Now that doesn't 8 days straight. They're not saying 8 days makes up a week. They're just saying the consecutive days. That's what they're talking about. So 7 days if the driver works less than 7 days a week, 8 days if the driver works all 7 days in 1 week. So there'll be allotted. So most drivers will choose probably the lesser of the two. Now, some of them who wants to run a lot to make a lot of money, they'll probably choose the larger one so they can keep running and make their hours, to kind of make money. So, but that's how that works. 10 hours off duty is required once the maximum time is reached, meaning in a day, right? No more than driving 11 hours in 1 day. Once that maximum is reached, they got to do a 10-hour reset. They could be on duty 14 hours in that clock, 11 of which they're driving. Once those two are reached their max, then they got to do a 10-hour reset there and then continue on to the next day and start and their total hours are still decreasing over the span of 6 days or 7 days, right? So that's how that works. The drivers usually pick up on it. Now, from a dispatcher's perspective, the only thing you probably want to concern yourself with is when you're booking loads for your driver, you want to at least say, hey man, I got your first load. You're on your way to the shipping facility to pick up the load, to deliver it. I'm gonna work on your next load a few days out. Do you think you'll have enough hours to run that second load? And they should be honest with you, tell you whether they need to, either they'll have enough hours to do it or they need to reset and schedule it for maybe the next day. Because with 10 hours, that's a long time. It may overlap into the next day, right? So what you don't want to do is schedule loads for your drivers without understanding that they may or may not be able to pick the load up. Then there's an issue, there's an overlap there, right?
That's exactly why I asked. That's why
Yeah,
I asked.
you'll schedule their next load, and they'll be on unbeknownst to them, they'll be on doing a reset, right? They'll be resetting their clock. They'll have the truck shut down. So things like that. iPhone 11, I think that's Carlos. Carlos, that's you, right? iPhone 11. Yeah, Carlos said he was coming on. I think that's iPhone 11, LaDonna.
Yes, it is.
Okay, what's up, Carlos? So with the drivers, unbeknownst to you, you want to make sure that they are not on their reset, that they are capable and active still on their hours so that you can schedule their next load. But if you didn't so the key between you, the dispatcher, and your driver, you always want to keep those lines of communication open and just about every aspect of the shipment process, the transport process, because you want to make sure that you and that driver are on the same page. You don't want to schedule their next load for them after you book their first load, and they're sitting at a truck stop resting and sleeping. They don't even know that you got a load for them, right? So communication is key, right? You want to make sure you stay on the same page with the driver. As you book loads for your driver over time, you guys will establish that rapport, right? That ability to say, yay, I got this load, or I got this next load. Hey, book me this next load. I'm gonna sleep for my reset, and then book me the next load the next day, closer to the noon time. I should be up and running, ready to go. Take a shower at the truck stop and ready to roll. So as long as you keep in communication with your drivers, then you should be fine. All right. Any other questions? No other questions? Okay, one thing I wanted to mention too, I wanted to go, how many of you guys are using or have looked at our partnership with 123 Load Board, where you can, as a dispatch, now in addition to our load boards that we offer you in our portal, okay, let's go here, our load boards. In addition to these load boards that we share with you, these 5, there is a 6th one, 123 Load Board, as a bonus promotion that we have a partnership with 123 Load Board. I was just talking to the CEO, the co-founder, and the vice president, Lauren Metzen, about this, bringing it back, enhancing it. You get the first 30 days for free. Now I'm talking to dispatch services, right? You guys are dispatch services. You can get 30 days for free with our link, right? Our affiliate link. And let's see here, put it in the chat. And then after 30 days, you can purchase your own subscription to the load board without being required to have an MC number and authority, an MC or DOT. This is strictly for our platform, Exodus Logistics Learning Center. You see our logo here, and you see 123 Load Board's logo. We have partnered, joined forces, because they realized that we had a large contingent of dispatch services who don't have MCs, right? No, I don't know any dispatcher that has an MC number, because if you are a dispatcher and you have an MC number, then apparently you're no longer dispatching. You must be either a broker, motor carrier, freight forwarder, whatever the MC number you applied for, right? So I was explaining to Lauren, like, look, well, we have a large group of dispatchers who's going to need access to some kind of platform that they can find carriers, practice looking at loads, understanding how to navigate the user experience and things like that. Well, he said, well, since you have such a large number, let me open up my carrier side load board and give dispatch services. Now you have to prove that you are a dispatch service. You are a business, EIN, LLC, things like that, to be offered the ability to have 30 days for free to practice with it, and then decide to purchase one of the subscriptions. Basic load board, 123 basic, $35 a month, premium, $45 a month, or premium plus $55 a month. Now, I just recently did a video on YouTube earlier today about navigating the user experience with 123 Load Board. But if you're going to be doing this long term, think of it as an investment opportunity to grow your service with an opportunity to have a load board without you being, especially if you don't have a carrier yet. If you don't have a carrier yet, that's even better for you, because you can still have access to the load board, right? Because you're not required to have an MC. You can once you get a carrier, a truck driver, you can use their MC or borrow their MC or ask them to use their MC to purchase a load board, DAT 123 truck style. But right now, before you even get a carrier, you can access one of the top 3 load boards in the country, 123 Load Board, to utilize its services and features to practice dispatching, right? To understand how to find loads and the strategies and features of the load boards, right? So for example, 123 Load Board here, let's go here and log in. See if I can get it up. 123 Load Board. And sign in, okay? So, as a new dispatch service, you would want to have this understanding, right? When you first log into 123 Load Board, and then now this version that I have, that I'm not giving access to the platform yet, but I have is Premium Plus. I got the highest one, the $55 a month, to practice with and understand the features before we open it up for you guys. But you guys have the opportunity to invest as a business service, dispatch service, towards your company, right? So this is our dashboard. This is the left-hand side is all the tools that they have, their tool directory, right? Main menu, dashboard, inbox, and things like that. Right here is where load availability. Here's a feature. Now, find loads is where you actually look for the loads. You search for loads and all that. We'll get into that in a second. But load availability is a good feature because you want to see what the market is saying right now. right? You want to get an idea of what it's saying. So you can look at it from a density map look. So most people are visual. They like the map version, or they can look at it from a list version. Okay, listing it in alphabetical order. So either way, let's go back to the map version so you can kind of be visual. Then you have these other features in here. It's color coded, right? So green means that's the lows are high. They're prevalently, a lot of them are available. There's a high volume of inbound and outbound freight, right? So if you hover over any of the states, you'll see their descriptions: outbound, intrastate, and inbound. So what does that mean? Outbound means, let's say we're in Illinois, right? I'm hovering my mouse over the state of Illinois. So there's 1,001 loads that are leaving out of the state of Illinois, outbound, going from their shipping facility in some facility in Illinois, Chicago, wherever, Joliet, and leaving outbound, going all points wherever, north, east, south, and west. There's 1,001 loads leaving Illinois. There's 150 loads that are moving within the state of Illinois. That's called intrastate, moving within the state, right? Not leaving the state limits. And then there are 1,081 loads that are coming into Illinois from all points elsewhere, wherever they're coming from. And then if you want to know what they are, you just simply click on that particular state and it'll do a breakdown of it. Now, it broke it down in the map version because we're looking at it from a map view, right? So over here under view, you can change that to list or card. If you change it to card, it looks like this. Okay. You go back to the view, if you change it to list, it looks like this. So whichever way you want to view it, you'll be able to view it that's more efficient for you, right? And then also, you can also set up filters in here as well. If you notice, you got outbound, intrastate, and inbound. And if you notice, it defines it. If you click on outbound, it's Illinois going anywhere, right? All the loads. Intrastate is Illinois to Illinois within the state. And then inbound is coming from anywhere into Illinois or whatever state you selected, right? You can set up filters. You can search, you can sort your result set, which is right here, 1,080 loads found. You can sort that by whatever you want to sort it by. Right now, by default, it's sorted by the age of the load. In other words, how long ago did the broker post this on the load board? Well, this one was posted a minute ago, right? If you notice the age column. So you can sort it by that, or you may want to sort it by a different category. Let's sort it by the rate, how much it's paying. So we select that, and now boom, now you got the higher paying loads compared to the other loads that are posted, right? You may want to sort it by another category. You may be tracking your carriers or tracking loads for efficiency's sakes by another category, rate per mile or equipment or size or weight or whatever you want to sort it by. Most people go by the age because they want to find the newest loads that got posted, or they may go by the rate because they want to see which loads are paying the most to see if it's advantageous for them to go for that load, right? And then another filter with a filter within the filter right here is you click that filter. Now you can filter it by other categories. You can filter it by trailer specifications, commodities. If you do trailer specification, you want to look for all, let's say you do trailer specifications, and the trailer meaning like a dry van, flatbed, reefer trailer, hot shot, box truck. You can select one of those categories. You want to filter all those loads that are leaving out of Illinois at a certain age for a specific trailer type. So now you're drilling down more specifically and categorizing your search features more specifically. And it does it for you. So you can go in here and select any of the trailer types, right? Or the other specifications of the trailer type, right? I'll get out of that, but just showing you how far you can drill down. Weight, with weight. You can show loads that are posted here that has with the weight or does it show without the weight? Whether it's LTL or truckload. You want to do all truckloads instead of LTLs. You click that. And now there's out of the 1,081, 1,036 of them are truckloads. So you click that and it's only going to show all truckloads. It's not going to show LTLs, right? So you can you can tweak this how you see fit. I can take this away, click it, get out of there. Okay. So that's a feature that you can use in the load availability aspect of it. Another feature, let's say you see this right here. You say, hey man, I want to target all dry-vans, or I want to target all flatbeds, or all reefers, or all three of those, or specific equipment types. So in the load availability section right here, under the trailer type, it's saying all for the region of the United States. You can get specific. You can just do a specific region you want to work on, the Midwest. It'll just show only the Midwest area, okay? So I'll take that away and just put all USA. I want to see all dry vans, flatbeds, and reefers. I want to see what the load density map shows for hot loads for the three major equipment types. How would I do that? I'll go to trailer type, and I'll select, instead of any, I'll select flatbeds, reefers, and dry vans, and I'll eliminate all the other ones. And I'll hit apply, and now it's just going to give me a density map of only dry vans, flatbeds, and reefers. So if you notice, dry vans, flatbeds, and reefers are moving some portions of the Midwest, a little bit of the Northeast, and mainly down in the Southeast, moving towards the Southwest over here. All the areas, and in California, all the areas that are green are high available loads. All the ones that are yellow or amber are medium in the middle, and in red, you're not going to find too much, right, of the dry vans, flatbeds, and reefers, right? So you can get more specific. Let's just say you only want dry vans. You want to see I want to see all dry vans in the Midwest, or all dry vans in the US, first of all dry vans in the US. So you just select dry van and hit apply. And now it's giving you a density map of all dry van loads only where they're concentrated in the United States. That's what you're looking at right now. Okay. This is called a heat. This is called a heat index map. It's showing the hot loads versus the medium loads, the warm loads, and the cold loads. So you will know where to focus your driver. If you have a driver who has a dry van, you'll know where to keep them running, right? If you are new, this is helpful. If you have experience, you'll follow the seasons. Like Carlos knows, he knows where commodities are moving, so he'll pretty much know where to send his dry van or flatbed or reefer carriers. But if you're someone who's ignorant of that, don't even know it yet because you don't have any experience moving freight yet, this tool can help you. You know, it gives you kind of a head start, right? Because it's showing you literally. You just got to understand how to manipulate and use the tool. And I'll constantly go over this over time to show you all the features over time. Just giving you an indication right now, right? So any questions about this? I'll go to the list part of it too. We're here. List and map. Any questions here on 1, 2, 3 on this portion? Yeah, no?
No, but what I wanted to do, I wanted to ask you a question about when you was early speaking about the time the drivers get to drive. Is there any way that the dispatchers can be aware of how much time they are driving and have, just in case, because I heard you say just in case, if they're not honest with you?
Right. So unless you build a strong relationship with your carrier, they're not going to give you access to their ELD, their login, right? To see that, unless you're dispatching at a point where you are you're invoicing for them, you're billing, you're managing the time and all that stuff. You're like their real dispatcher, right? Other than that, you guys got to ask them and trust that they'll tell you the truth. If they don't tell you the truth, they're going to suffer more than you, because if they lie to you and tell you something that does it make sense and you book their next load and it gets to a point where it's difficult for them to pick it up, that's on them. You're just doing your job on the dispatching side, following their profile, their carrier profile, and finding them loads according to their profile. Like, hey, I got a drive-in, I'm out of Virginia, I want to stay running in all the hot markets. So you can come right here to load board availability, and you do a trailer type for a drive-in. You selected that in the United States, selected that. So where are all the hot markets at? Well, all these green states, Midwestern states, and all these other states here are good for the drive-in. So now you focus on finding loads in that state based off of where your carrier is coming out of. Well, I just said Virginia, so I'm in Norfolk. So you can either send them to the Midwest, which is the best zone to be in. A zone contains a number of states, a region, I should say, region or zone. The Midwest region or the Midwest zone has a high volume of inbound and outbound loads for the drive-in. So too does the Southeast, right? And then the Southwest, namely that one state, which is Texas. So you would understand that the driver needs to let you know, hey man, I'm getting low on my hours. I need to find a truck stop to park my truck, reset my hours. Let's look for our next load instead of, let's see, today is Wednesday. Instead of tomorrow, I'm scheduled to deliver the load that I'm currently under, that you booked for me. I'm scheduled to deliver that Thursday, tomorrow at 0600. They're telling you military time. For those of you who are military, what is 0600? At 6 in the morning, right? Find me another load. I'm gonna do my 10-hour reset because it's gonna take me. I delivered 0600. I'm gonna get to that DC, that distribution center, that facility. They're probably gonna take me. I'm gonna give them 3 hours to offload me. I'm gonna assume that since it's a DC, a distribution center, the likelihood of other trucks being there in a line waiting to get to a loading dock is very high. So I'm going to assume that it's going to take me about 3 hours to get offloaded. So let's say I get offloaded by 9:10. I drive to a local truck stop 30 minutes away. About 10:30, I do my 10-hour reset. Well, 10:30, 11:30, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 at night. I'm not going to find a load at 8 p.m. at night. So try to find me something tomorrow morning, Friday morning. Right? So even if you got to count on your fingers like an elementary student to make it make sense for you, then make it make sense, right? So those are the kind of things you want to start to get into to make sure that you are effectively and efficiently dispatching for your carrier. And your carrier and yourself, you guys can help each other in that regard, especially if both of you are new, right? And even if the carrier is seasoned and he or she realizes that they're working with a new dispatcher, but they love the communication, they'll be more than willing to educate you on that as well, because they want to make sure that they avoid any hiccups in the shipment movement process too. Because anything that can cause a delay can be potential loss of money, loss of revenue, right? So those are some of the, so again, it goes back to the one of the number one rules is communication. As an independent dispatch service, you're going to have one or multiple carriers, truck drivers, owner operators that you deal with, right? So you want to communicate with those individuals to make sure that you are achieving for them or him or them what they require. And their requirements are explained to you. They're documented in one of the documents that make up our dispatcher packet. That document is called what? The carrier profile, right? So that's the reason why we have that, because the carrier is giving you their specifications of how they want you to find loads for them. So, Carlos, you got any input on this?
Yeah, I was gonna say, dispatchers need to be careful too on not really having a liability of that driver's driving time on them. It's okay to ask, but you don't want to make it to where you're responsible for it and have liability behind it too.
Exactly. So
So
Carlos,
everything Charles was telling you that
yeah.
is true. Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know Carlos, do you mind giving a brief introduction, if you please?
My name is Carlo Walker. We do dispatching, brokering, warehousing. and pretty much it on a daily basis.
3
We do a
p.m.
lot of yeah, we do a lot of, I've been doing a lot of warehousing today. So
You doing a transloading or cross docks?
no, I have a water company that I ship for, and we're sending water out. We have 2 container pools. You probably heard of a water company called um it's a Hawaiian bottled water company.
Okay. The most popular one I've heard of, obviously, Nestle coming out of, like down in Florida and stuff like that. But you probably got some probably what mid Fortune 500 company that you moving for, or
Yeah, well, it's a company out of Hawaii. It's filtered through natural lava rock, and it does pretty good. Um, I do for um, I think it's what is it, 360 water company, Rain Tree, probably about 12 or 13 different independent water companies
okay.
that we're shipping for right now. In summertime, it's real hot, so we're
And then
moving a lot.
a little sidebar. What'd you send me a picture of? Was that ocean perch?
No, shark, river whiting, shrimp.
Are you sending me some frozen samples?
No, my guy sent me this from South Carolina. I had I put it on a Sprinter van this morning, and the guy brought it up from South Carolina for me. It's like 300 pounds of fresh shrimp, 200 pounds of shark, and 150 pounds of whiting. Somebody already done bought all that stuff
Hey,
up here.
man, I missed the boat. Well, anyway, so that's Mr. Carlos. He's very versed in dispatching, brokering, trucking, drove trucks, owner operator for a number of years as well.
Oh, I still run local now.
Run local now. There you go.
Yeah,
So,
local.
he's a resource in addition to Mr. Nelson, Mr. Irwin that I lean on. Of course, LaDonna, she's an owner operator. So you guys have a network of individuals that you can lean on to of course I'll moderate it, right? Just to keep it, professional and things like that. I mean, not to imply that we're unprofessional, but I'm just saying, right? So
And also too, Charles, let them know that you'll be integrating in, showing them how to do warehousing independently without having to even buy a warehouse.
spoiler alert. But yeah, yep, warehousing, distribution, like the different concepts of warehousing, warehouse management systems, inbounding freight, consolidating,
Provide, yeah, providing services.
providing services, yeah, storage, different fees and all that stuff. So we have a warehouse over in Hampton. We're looking at another one in Newport News, 5601. What is that? City Line Road, 60,000 square feet. So what we're doing is, when one aspect of a market it slows down, you can pivot into other areas and within the same industry, logistics, transportation, things like that, to kind of keep afloat. And that's what we're doing. Like when dispatching slows down, when brokerage slows down, or when anything slows down, or you from your perspective, because from others' perspective, they're thriving. Some people are doing okay in dispatching, or some people are doing okay in brokering. It's just that you may have a challenge. And when I say you, I'm speaking generally, not to a particular person, right? So you just got to understand how to pivot.
Also too, Charles, but before we get off the line, if anybody have any difficult things that they're having trouble with, to throw it out there too, and see can we help them out.
Yeah. Yeah. So the number one, since you say that, the first challenge as for new dispatch services is what do you think that is, guys? Obviously, it's finding a carrier, right? That's the obvious answer. Well, I have my business set up. I have my license, my LLC, EIN. I'm all set up. My back office, my documents are ready to go. Find me a carrier. I need a carrier. I need someone who's going to agree to allow me, no experience, to book loads for them, to hold their livelihood in my hands, to trust that I'm going to be able to make them revenue on a weekly basis, 6, 7, 8,000, 9, 10,000 a week. That is the challenge, right? That's the first hurdle or obstacle that new dispatch services have. So that's the first challenge right there, Carlos, is finding a carriers.
One of the things I did when I was dispatching. And maybe sometime a guy called me and I may dispatch. I turn everything over to my daughter. But one of the first things that I did was I flooded the market. I printed up 5,000 postcards and just hit every truck stop, warehouses where the drivers was, and just flooded the market. I figured if I touch 5,000 people, I at least ought to get 10.
That's a small turn,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah. I'm not asking for much,
right, right,
He's right,
it
but I'm
all
listening.
but it also put me in the game, and all those people I touched, I offered daily dispatching and I offered weekly dispatching. So
yeah,
some guys might just call me once a week and say, "Hey man, I'm sitting out here in Florida. Can you get me something out of here?"
right,
And always have it to where you could build these guys and get your money right away because, hey, once the job is done, I've had many guys that run off on me.
and you'll get that too. Go ahead, Sherry. I think Sherry was saying something. Sherry.
So I just want to know, I like what he said about touching 5,000 people only to get 10, because that's probably the right average there. But how can a dispatcher come up with something like really, really special about their business to make them stand out? Like, would it be fair to say that you're the one that's going to get them like an emergency load if you get stuck somewhere? Is that a safe assumption to make?
Well, you really want to set up your dispatching service, but you also provide back office services. Somebody might not need load dispatching, but they might need someone to do the carrier packages, do some billing, just to be a back office for them.
Yeah. And you can also leverage that emergency concept that you were just saying, Sherry. Like
Yeah,
I can be
yeah.
the last resort. Like if no one else is if you can reach no one else, you can always reach me. I'm available. You
You
know.
know, I've had guys to where on dry van loads, I might say, "Hey, guy, call me. I'll find you a load for $25." But they have to pay me right then. Reefer load, it might be $50. Just to get the conversation going. But also at least know what you're talking about. Know some lingos, know what you're talking about, and the guys can go along with it.
Yeah. So that's the first. Obviously, that's the first challenge for new dispatch services. You just coming, especially coming into this industry, knowing very, very little, if anything. Even if you have a little experience, it's still going to be the first challenge. You got to get a carrier in order to start making money by finding them loads. If you don't have a carrier, you can't make money. You're gonna go under, right? So that's the first challenge, finding a carrier. So what strategies, right? Like Carlos saying, truck stops and things like that, social media, cold calls,
Warehouses,
warehouses.
you have your refrigerator. A lot of times I would go out at night. That's when a lot of times you guys are delivering fresh produce at the farmers market. A lot of your independent drivers are there. Your grocery distribution warehouses, because you don't want to just go to give out and put a flyer on every truck, because if a guy is driving for a company, you can't dispatch him.
Right.
So you can't even touch those people. They're no value to you. So you're looking for independent operators.
Correct. Owner operators with their own MCDOT. They own the truck and they operate it.
That's right.
They don't. They eat what they kill. Right.
Yeah,
So,
it can be from a Sprinter van to a big rig.
yeah. So, and then I often advise, of course, like Carlos did, and I agree with Carlos, but I often advise to make your entry point, the new dispatchers, easier. I would often advise focusing on the big rigs first, because you'll find it easier to find loads for them as opposed to more challenging loads for the box trucks, cargo sprinters, and power onlys. Right.
However, the box truck, and I'm always going to chime in on that, Charles. However, the box trucks and the cargo vans are the ones who are thirsty for the loads the most, and it's more of them out there without a load. It's easier to get by or get a client with a box truck or a van or a cargo van, because it's difficult for them to find that load.
And I always say that. That's correct. You are correct. remember every time I go through module 1, I always say, okay, here's the 3 equipment types, right? Let's do that. And I always say that every time in the portal. Let's go here. Getting carriers. I always make that statement. I'll say going through the 3 major equipment types, the dry vans, flatbeds, and reefers, because they're out here on the roads the most, you can find loads for them the easiest and they pay the higher rates, right? And then as opposed to the specialty equipment types, the box trucks, power onlys, hot shots, sprinter vans, and cargo vans, it's going to be harder finding loads for them, but it's going to be easy getting them because they are thirsty for loads, right? They have the smaller scale in comparison to the size than the larger equipment types. They have a smaller, those dry vans, flatbeds, and reefers, they're 53 feet, or in some cases with the flatbed, 48 or 53 feet. These here, power onlys, have no trailers. Box trucks go up to about 26 feet. And then you have hot shots up to about, the trailers up to about 40 feet with the dovetail ramp, and then the sprinter vans and cargo vans. So yeah, if you they're going to beg you to be their dispatcher, right? But are you prepared for that challenge being a new dispatcher? That's the question you would have to ask yourself. So which position would you rather be in, right? Would you take on, you'll take a power only box truck, sprinter, or hot shot, but then pull your hair out trying to find loads for them? Or would you want to get in a position where it's going to take just a little bit longer to get one of the 3 major equipment types, but once you get them, the floodgates of loads open up, because those are mostly on the load boards, right? So that's the position you want to ask yourself, which position would you rather be in? Now I'm speaking specifically to brand new dispatchers who are just coming into the game. Which position what's the easier entry point for you, right? And that's the challenge. But hey, therein lies that's the cost of doing business. Any business you're in, no matter the industry, logistics, whatever, you're gonna have a challenge starting out, and especially from a new perspective, coming in, getting your business formulated, you're gonna have hurdles, and what makes or breaks your business is your commitment and dedication to it. So, but yeah, Sherry, that you do make a good point. We just gotta, if you are adamant about focusing on box trucks, sprinter van, cargo vans, then you need to educate yourself in those spaces. What are the load boards and loads and types for box trucks, sprinter vans, and cargo vans? Do you entertain Amazon Relay with the box truck, Amazon Flex with the sprinter van, cargo vans? Do you get into last mile delivery? Do you get into pharmaceuticals, medical courier type stuff with those last mile is starting to make a turnaround.
Last mile is where everybody in the Chicagoland area has a sprinter van parked in their driveway.
I need to go to Chicago and check this out.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. I mean, Chicago runs on cargo vans.
Well, Chicago is the LTL capital of the United States.
There you have it. It's a large metropolitan that provides for miles and miles and miles for 5 states across. Okay, so I wouldn't sleep on new dispatchers. I wouldn't sleep on that cargo van, because everybody has one.
Yeah.
Right. So now you get the cargo vans, but then you would have to have your carriers. Do your carriers only migrate to Chicago and thrive there, or are they traveling out of Chicago, going to all over the country, doing deliveries, regionally or even nationally?
It would have to be regional with the cargo vans, because you can't take them far. However, it's a niche market. When you're new in business, it's good to have a niche market. If you can just focus in on a piece, like maybe LTL or last mile delivery in a regional area, and then you dispatch for cargo vans and box trucks, that might be your golden ticket right there. Right. And that's not saying that you can't dispatch for the dry vans and the reefers and things like that. It's just that the competition for that is fierce, because you got people from overseas being dispatchers for people here in the US. They're not even over here. And they're calling me every single day because they think that I got all these rigs about dispatching.
Right. And then also too, particularly in the cargo vans and sprinter vans, the last mile sector, not the medical courier sector, but you got companies that you can contract with, like GoShare, Roadie, Bungie, all these different small last mile companies that you can connect with, especially if you have like a little small fleet, like 3 to 5 sprinter vans, you can put them under those different companies. So if you want to specialize in that niche coming out of Chicago, that's a great idea. So that's
I deal
what
with,
go ahead.
sorry, Charles, I deal with a lot of breeding companies for pets moves. And
Okay.
they can either be in a sprinter van, cargo van, or it, it depends on the size of the pet. Driver has put them in their front seat or, in the back on the floor somewhere.
So you have niches. Niches lead to riches, right, Cherie? So yeah, but that's an example of what I was saying with pivoting a little bit in the market. So if it's not working out in the traditional standard way, like dry van, flatbed, and reefer, pivot somewhere else. Like we're pivoting into the government sector, government contracts and transportation, logistics, DLA, SAMs. We're pivoting into warehousing, things like that. So another possible pivot, apparently in the Chicago area, the Midwest, is last mile, cargo vans and sprinter vans.
Yeah, I missed your last comment. Niches leads to riches. You're absolutely right there. And I want to inspire the dispatchers in your class to reach out to the Chicagoland area and try and get some business drummed up, because like I said, we are waiting. Sometimes we're empty, sometimes we're half empty because the competition is fierce. Everybody has a van parked in their driveway.
So now that could be that's an interesting challenge. So is it oversaturated over there?
It might be a little saturated with regards to people getting in the industry and not knowing what they're doing. They hear something. Oh, you can be here's an example. You can be a medical courier with a cargo van. Not true.
So what did you suggest?
You don't
What
need
do
a
you
cargo
suggest? How do
van.
you reach out to these guys?
Well, I'm a connection, that's for sure. Because I connect myself with every cargo van owner. And the reason why I do that is because for some places, you gotta be able to run DSP and you need a fleet of 6 or more.
Yeah, I would suggest, if they have the time, fly into these cities and spend a couple of days. And hit your truck stops, hit whatever, a lot of the spots, and do your homework before you go, and make it worth your while.
Now, let's say I'm gonna throw a scenario at you, Cherie. I got a sprinter van, but I'm in Norfolk, Virginia. How can I get involved in something like that? Like, obviously, I'm not planning on moving to Chicago, but
you don't have to. There's people calling from India, from all over the world to run these businesses. And then, they've never met anybody. They're just providing a need. And the need is, we need a load. We need a contract. We need steady work. We need money.
So I got a sprinter van. Well, my buddy has one actually. It's just sitting there parked. It's been parked there for months. So it's not making money. So I'm like, okay, well, how can I tell him, okay, I got a connection in my dispatch, Mrs. Adams. She's the inside connection. She's the plug, if you will. And how can I get involved in using my sprinter van either for LTL, medical courier, or last mile deliveries coming out of Norfolk, running my region, Norfolk, DC, North Carolina, those areas, Northern Virginia area, I guess I would run.
Well, that's going to start on the sales side. So like your guy said, he brought up all that shrimp and whiting to a particular area. That's happening every day. There's people on the docks wanting their product to be shipped over a few miles from the coastline. Hold on. It's about finding that person who can score the sales contract to provide for the cargo van. And they might need 6, 7, 8 cargo vans to do it. Maybe they don't want to pay for
Tractor-
40 feet of drive-in if it's not going that far.
Okay. So what resources or like a person can go to, like a website or anything like that, with irregardless of the city they're in, to start that process, to understand that you may know of?
It's about collective, hear what I'm saying? It's about collective thinking. Everybody in this class, including you and especially Carlos, we all got some type of connection that could probably score a deal where everybody can eat at the table. Somebody knows a business, somebody knows a driver, somebody knows this, that, or the other. It's about connecting the dots and getting the program together, so to speak.
Understood. So networking, essentially. Yeah.
But seriously, building it together. I mean, you yourself say you have a warehouse. What are you storing in your warehouse? Do you need something moved out of your warehouse?
Right now, it's mainly because that the Dolly. Great question. The Dolly vessel that crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore finally made its way to Norfolk and Portsmouth for repairs. Well, those containers still have to be offloaded and shipped back up to Baltimore, because that's where their original destination was prior to the crash. So we're part of that group of carriers that are grabbing containers off of it. There's some 2,500 to 3,000 containers on there that still need to be moved off of that vessel, because that vessel is going to be up here for a while to be repaired. They still got debris of the bridge on the bow or the stern, whichever one is called the front of the vessel. So
you need power only to move the containers?
That's correct. You need power only to go in there. And my guy's company, the guy who I was saying has the Sprinter van, he also has box trucks and power onlys and step decks. Melvin, he takes his 4 to 5 power onlys and grabs about 4 to 5 chassis from the chassis pool at the ports, and then snatch those containers from the respective shipping lines, the steamship lines, and transport them out of Norfolk back up to the Baltimore area for a certain amount. And then
what opportunity can you give a dispatcher that's new in the business so that they can have a piece of that bread? Because that is how it works all over the place. So
Correct.
You got to connect.
Correct.
Where is the dispatcher that's going to say, hey, we need a container moved off the Francis Scott Bridge in their advertisement, and everybody is going to call them?
Correct. So the potential opportunity in this particular scenario would be if a dispatcher happens to have a power only carrier that they're dispatching for that's in the local Norfolk area, who's willing to and who's capable of being eligible to access the ports there with the TWIC card and the UIIA and the SCAT code. They can potentially grab a chassis and a container and move it, a preloaded container, move it to the Baltimore area, have a live unload done, and then bring the empty back to the port so they can get back on that vessel to avoid demurrage and things like that. So yes, you're right. That's an example of what you just said about networking and having the connections. That's one of my spaces, right? So
can I advertise that I can get you a load bringing something off the container off the Francis Scott Bridge?
Well, it's not off the Francis Scott Bridge. The Francis Scott Bridge is in the Baltimore Harbor right now. It got crashed. It's destroyed. But the vessel that crashed into it is called the Dolly, DALI, and it was moved with all those containers down the Chesapeake Bay to Norfolk. So it's currently in Norfolk, Virginia, being repaired. In the meantime, the containers that are on that vessel are in Norfolk being offloaded from that vessel, the Dolly, onto chassis, and those containers need to be moved back up to Baltimore for delivery.
Can I advertise that I have some containers that need to be moved up the Dolly?
You certainly can. Yeah, so there's a lot of trucking companies here locally that are you're probably going to be competing with about, I don't know, 30 to 50 to 100 other companies who are already involved in that. But
I see. Okay.
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt for you, because people are already aware of what's happened. This happened weeks ago, so people are already in front of the game getting their foot in the door and talking to the different steamship lines and saying, hey, I have availability. Hey, I have capacity. I have about 10, 20 power only units. We have access to the Norfolk ports. We have access UIIA to those steamship lines. Give us an opportunity. We have the capacity. Sure. Now you have to agree to the rates. Well, please quote us this rate. We got 20 or 40-foot containers that need to be moved, preloaded to Baltimore, offloaded, and then the empties brought back so they can get back on the steamship line and get shipped out of there. Or a different vessel. Because right now, while the dolly is being repaired, it's not going to move. So I'm assuming that the company that brought the dolly over are bringing a replacement vessel so those empties can get back to their origin or where they came from. So that's just my assumption. But yeah, it's a process though. It is. It's a big process. So, but your point, networking, of course. So for new dispatchers coming in, of course, you want to learn the process first, right? The workflow, how things are done. How are you coming in as a new company? Where do you get started? How do you get carriers? Like Carlos was saying, flood with advertisement, flood the truck stops. Talk to only, if you're going to flood the truck stops, talk to only owner operators, not company drivers, because again, they have internal dispatching for their company. They're already moving loads for their customers. They are a trucking company, so I'm assuming they have contracts with either brokers already or direct customers. So they have their internal dispatchers. So you would focus on owner operators who are either living off the load boards, the spot market, or trying to get a direct shipper. So, all right. Any questions? Oh. 1, 2, 3 load board. I would, if I were you guys, I would consider looking at this load board as a also a feature. I know we give access to other load boards as well. Like I like Next Load, but 1, 2, 3 load board here. Like for example, finding loads. Right, let's find a load. Search for a load. When I say load, for those, I know there's some new people in here, so I got to be mindful of my audience, right? So loads, freight, cargo, goods, shipments, these are synonymous terms. They literally mean the same thing. The pickup location is always the origin of where the load or the cargo is going to be picked up. That's either the shipper or what's called the consignor. Sometimes you'll see when you're dealing with brokers and you're booking loads for your carriers, you will see different terms on the paperwork, which is called the rate confirmation, the rate con, or the load confirmation. It'll either say origin, it'll say pickup, it'll say shipper, or it'll say consignor, right? They all mean the pickup location. So let's say, for example, Norfolk, Virginia. You got a carrier who's a drive-in carrier based in Norfolk, Virginia. They want a load going anywhere that pays, keep me running for 3 weeks, bring me home for a week in 4 weeks period, in a month's time, right? That's an ideal carrier. They run it for 3 weeks. So what I would do, I would run them out for a week and a half and then make their way back for the other week and a half for a total of 3 weeks. I wouldn't run them out for 3 weeks and then that 4th week they're still out and they got to rest way out there instead of being home. That doesn't make sense, right? I would want to bring them home at the midway point. Run them for a week. If they want to run out for 3 weeks and be home for a week, that's what they said. I want to be home for a week and I want to run for 3 weeks. Well, a week and a half, I'll run you out from your origin, and then midway point, after the week and a half, I'll start to bring you back with loads on your way back. So by the time that 3 weeks, you're home and you can rest with your family. If you have a family or by yourself, do whatever, go to the casino, whatever, right? So, Norfolk, Virginia, radius, what does that mean? The radius is how far am I, the dispatcher, willing to find a load for my carrier? How far are they willing to drive with their truck and trailer empty from their current position, their 20, to the pickup location, in this case, Norfolk, Virginia? The going standard today is 100 miles. And you can change that. Another word for radius, we call it deadhead. Deadhead means you're driving, your trailer is empty you're driving your trailer empty to a pickup location to grab a load or to grab a shipment or some freight or cargo, right? So, Christopher, I see you sitting. How you doing, Mr. Christopher? Look like you sitting in the Bentley. You sitting in your Bentley?
I'm sitting in my truck. You know, we had that tornado come through here.
Okay. Are you in the Houston
And
area?
yeah,
So the
knocked
hurricane,
all the power out.
yeah, Burrow. Yeah, I'm glad you're safe. But yeah, that was a devastating incident. So
Yeah, I have no power, so I got to sit out in the truck and use my phone.
okay. I'm glad you're safe, brother.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Say, Charles, could I use more than a flatbed in my area in Houston?
Can you
Since
use a flatbed in your area?
More, not just a flatbed,
Well, what else? What
like
else?
dry van.
Okay, I'm glad you asked that. Let's go back to 1, 2, 3 load boards, load availability, and see. You're in Houston, Texas, right?
Correct.
So we got all trailer types. So let's say flatbeds and dry vans. All right. And let's hit apply. And lo and behold, yes, you can. So according to the density map or the load availability maps, equipment types that are dry vans and flatbeds, which is what we selected here, trailer types in the US region, you could even select just the let's say the West or South. Let's say South, which is Texas. Texas should be included in there. Okay, let's go West. Let's see. We see West. So since we can't get that, we can just say I do other. I'm gonna go back to US, but I do other and just select a specific state. We'll just say,
Southwest.
yeah, Southwest, but I don't see Southwest. The Southwest is not there. Midwest, Northeast. So I'll just select, to be safe, I'll just select USA. So you can see Texas here. So Texas, for a trailer type of a van and a flatbed, yes, there are outbound and inbound loads for dry vans. And to see that, let's just click the actual state and you'll see, and then filter.
Is it more for flatbed?
And then you can just filter that more for flatbeds than dry vans. So the equipment is flatbeds with tarps, flatbeds without tarps.
Right.
You see, and then you filter out the trailer specifications and things like that. So yes, you have 1,330 loads. The majority of them seem to be, I would say there's probably a mixture of van and flatbeds. I would say 50-50 because Texas is pretty huge. Flatbeds and dry vans move through Texas a lot. I mean, even reefers in some instances too. So, but yeah, but you just drill down right here specifically to, and let's put it in order of, instead of age, let's see what the rate is for those loads.
Also, too, in Texas, everything runs through there. Dry vans, your flatbeds has a few categories. It can be regular flatbed for just toting regular flatbed freight, or you could, they do a lot of onions out of Texas with flatbeds. They do a lot of pumpkins where they have to have the side kits on there.
Right.
Right.
So a lot of your produce is hauled with flatbeds.
You see.
Oh,
So
okay. I didn't know that.
Right, and I'll make a point and to that point, as you get more experience in dispatching, you'll get into the realm where Carlos is, where he understands commodities, what's not only the equipment type, but what types of freight that goes on the type, the commodity. So another word for commodity are what's being hauled on the trailers, onions, pumpkins, things like that. So he'll know, and the seasons. So now you're getting very versed in dispatching. So now you know where to send your carriers to for a specific market, for a specific equipment type, commodity, in what season, so that they can be the most profitable. Now you're becoming a master. You're getting on the Carlos level. You're becoming a master at the process now. And this happens year in and year out because seasons come and go, but the farmers are still at their locations. they still harvest their products. They still need to be moved from their locations to their customers, right? And this is done seasonally. So if you set up relationships with them through your carriers, you can win like that. So this is what Carlos is doing on that level, right? So we're at the level where we're getting it from a beginner's perspective, right? We're understanding the process and how to find where our equipment types are moving loads prevalently. We haven't gotten to the point where we understand the market, where as far as seasons and what commodities are moving there. You will pick up on that, though, I'll be honest with you, as you deal with specific brokers in those areas, you'll see what commodities that they are wanting your carriers to haul. And you should make notes of that, right? Okay, this broker hauls this, or this broker hauls that at this time of the year or in this season, right? So make a mental note of that, or even write it down, right? To keep track of that stuff. So now you can repeat going back to those brokers, right? And understand that process. So, and that comes in time. You'll pick up on it in time. It's you're not gonna, it's not an overnight process. You're gonna get it on time, right?
And what that also mean is any independent operator, it don't matter if they're doing flatbed, step deck, curtain van, Conestoga, you can always go on the load boards and look up the loads where they're going. So don't just limit yourself to dry van, flatbeds, your average, any independent operator.
Okay.
Because you can always go and do your research.
Cool.
Correct. Exactly. So now you're getting, so the flatbed category has subcategories under it. General flatbed, the standard skateboard, and then you have step decks, low boys, Conestogas, with
double drops. Yeah,
double drops.
it could run the gamut. Specialized.
Yep. Yep. The extenders, the ones that extend out for heavy hauls, different types of stuff. So yeah. Yep. So I don't talk about the advanced type of stuff in this class because I realize my audience you guys are just getting started. So if I was to talk about all that stuff, I would, I don't want to confuse you. I want you to get your foundation down first. And Carlos and I, we've been having a conversation about setting up a more advanced curriculum for later on. So as those of you who are, dare I say, bored in this class, right? And you want a little bit more advanced training to continue on in your process, then that potentially will be coming downstream. And then also I'm introducing with my other team some AI technology to have AI do the work for you, plan routes and things like that. So that's definitely coming. So there we go. A great question, Christopher. So you're in Houston.
Correct.
Right. So this is out of Houston area right here. You're specifically Houston, specifically the state of Texas for a trailer, van, and flatbed going anywhere, right? This is your going outbound. So, or within the state right here, intrastate, 834. You can do Texas. You can just move all through Texas and still eat, right? This is a typo. This one right here. This 99,999. Somebody see that and be like, man, let me call this broker. 30,000 pounds, 280.
Yeah, I was just saying that just not 99.
That is, $285.71 per mile. That is a typo. That broker put too many nines when they were posting the load, they put too many digits in before they hit submit. England Logistics, that's a typo. And some of them, and Carlos will probably agree with me here, some of them do that intentionally so that you can call them and they can try to reel you in.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, they will post some of everything, just make sure you ask the right questions because they'll put Atlanta to Atlanta and it could be going to New Jersey.
Right. Ask for zip to zip, get that zip code of that facility, that shipping facility, zip code of the receiving facility, so you can calculate true miles, right? Because sometimes a broker will give you their shipping facility may be on the outskirts of a major city, like for example Atlanta, but it may not be in Atlanta, but they'll put on the load board Atlanta to Detroit, but it's actually picking up in, I don't know, Flowery Branch, right? And going to Lansing, Michigan, which is like 60 miles northwest of Detroit. You see? So, but they're putting major cities in there to kind of entice. That's why you want to ask for zip code to zip code. You know, these are just some of the tricks
Okay.
of
Hey,
the
so, the one that got used into El Paso, they have 1710 and then 1920. Is that what the rate normally go for 1710 and the 1920? Is that all that is much we can get from the broker?
So great question. So I got my cursor on it right here. Houston to El Paso for a flatbed. It's a truckload, 48 foot, 48,000 pounds. So it's maxed out, right? The rate that the broker posted it for, which is Beery Brokerage Company, they posted it for 1710, which is $2.29 a mile. The rate check, which is what the market averages, the
Oh, okay.
the
Okay.
spot market is paying more than what the broker posted it for. So the broker is being greedy. They're posting it less. If a broker posts a rate on the load board less than what the market is dictating that it should get paid for, I would, yeah, I wouldn't even. Well, I can't say I wouldn't entertain talking to them, but I would at least see if I could. If I'm willing to talk to them, I would at least see if I can get that rate back up at least to the competitive market rate, maybe
Well,
2,000.
you should be. It's just, we do it as brokers a lot of times, just to throw it out there, and it's negotiable, and you may save a extra $50, and if you're moving 300 loads a year for that customer, that's 25 and 30 and 40, $50 adds up.
Yeah,
Looking at it on the broker side, but
right.
they, like you said, sometimes they're being greedy, but a lot of times they know what the market is around there because they're looking at the same information you're looking at.
Of course. Yep. Of course.
They're just trying to see, hey, will I catch somebody that's
Slipping.
not up on slipping, not up on their game, not looking at rates and stats. They just
Right. And so it's good that you. So this is another reason to have access to a load board like this, because you get competitive. You get the spot market rate for what the market says, and you get what the broker posts. So if you go in there and you talk to the broker and say, "Hey, man, 17 is good, but can you do whatever?" Right? And the broker already knows what you're probably going to ask for. Probably going to say 2,000. If I was a broker, I say, "Well, I know the market is saying 1920. So if a person comes in and they may be all in on the load tender from their customer. And they may be looking at, what do you think, Carlos? Maybe 2,500 on this load. They may have 25, 3,000 in it from the shipper, but they posted it for 1920.
yeah. Where's it going to?
It's going from Houston to El Paso, so it's going to a dead zone for a flatbed. You're gonna be over there forever, trying to get out of there, right? El Paso, Midland, Odessa, Pecos, those areas, West Texas. Those are dead zones, man. You're gonna be over there with the tumbleweeds and the buffalo skulls on the ground out in the desert.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, unless you're just that over that way and you are ready to swoop down that way towards the valley, and if you have something specialized, but yeah, they probably got about at least 25 grand. I mean, 2,500 in it, probably.
2,500, right? So yeah, the
Yeah.
broker's getting from the shipper 2,500. They posted for 19 something. They're trying to, so that they already made their profit margin. They're trying to see if they can squeeze a little more, right? They got it for nine. The market says 19. They posted it for 17.10. So they got like
17.
$800 or $790 profit already that they're going to pocket. If they get an idiot, for lack of a better word, to move it at 17.10, they just made $790 on
Yeah.
that one shipment. So,
But, also too, a lot of times, the customer is no fool. They're looking at the same results, and they know what the loads are paying. So the majority of brokers, they're not going to slick the customer.
correct. Because that's what's important to the broker, to keep that customer, because that's where the money source is coming from. Keep the
Yes.
customer happy. right? Keep the carrier happy to a certain degree because the carrier is the one moving the freight. So the broker can't get paid unless the product gets delivered, right? So, but so it's a balancing act with the broker. I'll be honest, it's a balancing act, right? You got to satisfy your customer. That you agreed to a tender from the customer for, let's say, 2,500 in this example, and now you got to make sure that your carrier. Now, if it were me, I would make sure that I give my carrier a fair wage, so that I'm winning as a broker in both directions. Satisfying my customer, my carrier is moving the loads frequently, so now I'm thinking volume. Now I'm getting more. My customer is going to award me more loads because I'm proving to them that I have carriers that do OTP and OTD, on time pickup, on time delivery. There's no issues. There's no claims. Everybody's happy, right? So that's the balancing act that brokers play, right? Now, do all brokers play fair? Well, of course not, right? But it is what it is. Welcome to transportation, logistics, right? You're not gonna if you don't have thick skin for this industry, you may want to jump into underwater basket weaving or something. But it's just that's just how it is, But if you have a lot of tools in front of you to help you navigate these waters, then you'll be, especially from a dispatcher's perspective, it'll make you'll have a little bit more longevity because you'll understand, you'll begin to learn certain things. And sometimes you have to go through even bad experiences to learn. Bad experiences are also good because you learn from them, right? Good experiences are good because you did the right thing. You did the process, the workflow correctly. Bad experiences are good because you learn from them. Now, hopefully they're not too bad where you put in a carrier out of service because of your dispatching techniques and things like that. Of course, you definitely want to avoid that. But, you want to educate yourself and then keep the communication lines open between you and your carrier and the brokers. Form those relationships. You want to be such a dispatcher whereby brokers are calling you saying, hey man, do you got a truck over here again? I like the way your truck did it. Or if you have any trucks available, I'm gonna send you a list of the loads that I have for this week. Those are the type of brokers you want to, because now you can leverage that to negotiate more rates or more money in the loads, right? So you want to provide a service to these brokers through your carriers in such a way that that's the type of relationship you have. I had a broker at TQL, which was based in Cincinnati, Ohio, that would call me, hey man, I'm getting ready to post these loads on the load board, but before I do that, do you want me to send you an email of the load list? Yeah, because I had the leg up. He sent me the email list of the loads prior to him posting them on the load boards. So who was that? I was at an advantage. I had a head start, in other words, because I provided him with service with carriers who were doing good jobs with them. He said, I want to get my good carriers out the way first with these loads before I put them on the spot market load boards and have all these other carriers chase these loads. Those are the types of relationships that, you want to have, so. Any questions? Nope. All right, good. I see a lot of
Nope,
people
that's
here.
it.
That's it. Hey, Shiante. I got my 757 connection in here.
Hey, how you doing?
All right. All right, guys. So the point of tonight's training was I'm trying to see if you guys I want to push this 1, 2, 3 load board, the features, and you guys can start seeing the different ways of looking at how it works, map and card views, different views, so you can utilize it for your company, right? And take advantage of the 30-day free promo. And then after 30 days, you can decide to purchase it without having to be required to have an MC number. As you know, most load boards require an MC and an authority, if you will, a carrier authority or a broker authority if you are a broker. Our partnership with 1, 2, 3 load board allows us to pass on this offer to our dispatcher community to take advantage of this load board without having an MC number, right? So you just set up the process, register with them, And then after the free 30 days, you decide if you want to purchase the basic, premium, or premium plus subscription without having a MC authority. So you get a load board that you can play with and learn from it. And a lot of the features in here are good features. I can go over other things, market rates, profit calculator, mileage calculator, things like that. So, all right. No other questions? Man, we're gonna cut this short early tonight, apparently.
Excuse me, I'm kind of confused a little bit when you was talking about the prices with the low boards. Were you saying that the brokers would, the difference between the price they put up and the rate of something else? Like, could you explain that more to me? Because
Yeah, I'm going back to it right now. So
thank you.
in certain load boards, there
Mhm.
are columns in here or features in
Right.
the load boards that show certain things. So in this particular load board, 1, 2, 3 load board, you have a rate column and then you have a rate check column.
Mhm.
See that?
Yeah.
Okay. The rate column is what the broker posted, how much they're willing to pay to the truck for this particular lane. So this lane
Right.
picking up in El Paso, Texas, going to New Albany, Ohio for a dry van truckload, 53 feet, 15,000 pounds. The broker, which is Circle Logistics Incorporated, posted it at $27.50, which is $1.68 per mile. See that? Okay. Now that's the rate column, now you see some don't have any rates. So some brokers don't post their rates because they want to see how much you know about the business or try to trick you out of money, right?
Okay.
But this one is posted at $27.50. That's the broker's rate, what they're paying to the truck, whether it's negotiable or not negotiable. Now, the next column is the rate check. This is what the market on average pays for that same lane. In this example, El Paso, Texas to New Albany, Ohio. The market says we're on average, it's paying $31.12, which is $1.90 a mile. So if you look at these two numbers, what that says is that the broker is paying to the truck less than what the market on average pays for that same run, that same shipment, Texas to Ohio. Okay. So you would say, hey, I would have to at least talk to this. If I'm interested in this load and if my carrier wants it, you would have to talk to that broker as a dispatcher and see if you can at least negotiate it up to at least a competitive market rate, some 3,000, 3,100, 3,150, 3,200, right? Because right now it's well below some almost $400 below the average spot market rate or the average rate of the market for that particular lane.
Yeah, and also too, just say if that load is produce and that morning everything is beautiful, the weather's great, and they're hauling cabbage. And
Uh-oh.
then at noontime, it starts to pouring down raining. And there are loads, but it's taking a long time to get loaded. So that could affect the price. So it's certain things that could affect the price. Truck availability,
Right.
not enough trucks, too many trucks. So, that gives you a real good gauge of what the market is. But like I said, at the end of the day, um, your your um your broker is the one that you're gonna have to deal with that.
Right.
Okay.
It seems like the brokers are really, really cutting us out. You
Yeah.
know, the rates
Well,
that they're offering is insanely low.
no, that's because the the market is bad because of inflation. There's no money moving. It's election. It's like I said once again, I broker every day, and
Mhm.
my customer that I deal with knows what the freight lanes are paying too.
Right.
They know. So I can't call my broker and say, hey, I want $2,000 for this lane. He knows. Now, within that, if he call another broker and that broker can't get it moved, and he's talking to me flip-flopping, then he might say, well, hey, I might have to add another $200 onto it. I might have to do this. But the market is down because everything else is down. Nothing's moving. And when I
Okay.
say that, things are moving, but it's not at the height of when the pandemic of moving.
Now, are those the last of the good old days?
No,
Okay.
no, because I say that, but I live in the Atlanta metro area. I live in Flowery Branch, Georgia. And then within contained in this area, we're moving freight just like it was during the pandemic. In a sense of if where we used to could get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, run a load 3 to 4 hours and be back home and make 600-700 bucks. No, it's not like that no more.
Mhm.
Sometimes you can. Now you got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, run your 2 loads and get back home at 5, but you're still in the game.
Mm.
It's there. You just going to driver. My daughter's been telling her new drivers and her old drivers, you cannot run one load a day and just go home now.
Mhm.
No one has made money.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, a lot of these guys, they're going to have to stay out a little bit. But at the end of the day, they do what they want to do. But
Right.
also to cover yourself, have fines. The driver should check in with you at a certain time every day. If you don't, it's $10.
Mm.
If they don't do this, it's $10 because it's your business. You don't want to waste your time.
Right.
Yeah. Jamal, you had your hand up? Unmute yourself, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's okay.
Yes, sir.
I got two questions, man. So I'm thinking about, when I'm trying to campaign to get carriers, we're looking for new carriers getting a MC authority kind of new. I'm trying to think, like when the sister had asked earlier about marketing and the brother had spoke on like putting yourself out there 5,000 times or however many times he spoke of. Like if you have a relationship with maybe like a factoring company, does that help the carrier get through to the broker better? Or is there some kind of way I could like couple up with that to market myself to the carrier? That make any sense?
It makes sense. Are you
Yeah.
saying? Go ahead, Carlos.
Well, in my point of view, you hooked up like that. Yeah, it can sort of if they have a real good rate and that's what you're marketing, but you're trying to figure out how to reach more drivers. Um, have a flyer, whatever type of promotion that you're gonna have. Have it say what it needs to say, short and quick. Like if I go out there right now, um, I've been driving since I was 18. I'm 48 now. So when I started dispatching in like 2012, when I kind of got off the road and I wanted to, a guy asked me to dispatch and I said, well, I might as well just start doing it to help other people too. I can go to the truck stop and talk to a guy and hold a conversation with him for 5 minutes because I'm a truck driver and he can relate.
Exactly.
If you are a new person, the best thing to do is rehearse your chops, know what you're talking about in a limited sense. Because I can say, hey driver, what's going on? Hey man, the watermelons down there running, man. You better get you some. You better get you some, man. You're lacking.
Mhm.
First thing he gonna say, well, hey man, where they coming from? So instead of you saying, hey, I want to be your dispatcher, kind of know what commodity is running right now. Kind of know what's some things to say and hold at least a minute or two conversation because they're going to be wondering, hey, well, what do you have to offer? If not just that, have it on paper the way you say, hey, I'm dispatching, take a look at this and keep on moving until you do build your chops up. Like I would put out flyers that had on there, calling all truck drivers. It's produce season. Where are you? We're hauling broccoli. We're hauling corn. We're hauling potatoes. I go through the whole rigmarole of what we hauling. Where are you? Phone number, blah, blah, blah. Um, and let it go at that.
That's a good
And
idea.
you can add your other commodities for your dry vans. We have dry van loads. We have this. We have LTLs.
Okay. Okay, and my second question, okay, that's good information. That's great content. That's great. That's great. Now, my second question is this. You do some brokering and we looking at these rates up here. And fortunately on this load board it has the rate that the broker putting on and it has a rate check. And what I'm understanding is what the spot rate or what the market rate is, right?
Right,
Yep.
that's correct.
Okay, so for me to make sure that the math is mathing for my carrier, what's the formula to check to see what's fair? Is it rate times mile?
No, what it is really depending on your carrier. You're gonna ask your carrier what he wants. Where you could have a load that's going to Orlando, Florida, where one guy may take a refrigerated load for 12, then the next guy might not take it for under 15. So that's personal with between you and your carrier. You're gonna have to find out what they want. You know, hey man, where you want to run to? Well, I want to run down here. What type of rate you looking at? And that gives you the sense of because it's no use
No,
you
no.
arguing back and forth with the broker or trying to convince the broker when you don't know what your carrier is going to take. Because at the end of the day, if he tells you, man, it's not enough money. So
Right.
just ask your carrier straight up. Hey man, what are you going to need to move? And then
And
you'll know if
what,
he say, hey, I'm going to
But
need
for,
12, 15.
but for me to do the job, but for me to do the job for the carrier to make sure the math is mathing, isn't it something I can plug in here to see if the mile cents per mile is what it's
No,
gonna be
no,
worth? Like
so let me
no, no.
let me step in for that one. So
Yeah.
the
your
last time I tapped in with y'all, we was doing something that was like 6 gallons, six miles per gallon, right?
you're figuring that's fuel cost. You were doing fuel
Right,
cost.
fuel cost, right? 6 miles per gallon, right?
Right.
Yeah, but you just can't factor that in. That's why I said you had to ask that driver because he's factoring in everything. He's factoring in his insurance payment may be $1,800 a month. So he's factoring in on the days or whatever it is going to take. When I was at Landstar, we used to sit down and formulate everything up to where it would cost per mile to run that truck. So my truck may cost 80 cents a mile to run it, where a guy got a brand new Peterbilt spread axle trailer or a new flatbed, it may be $1.20 to run that truck.
Okay, so
So once so
if
so
y'all
once again, you
if y'all can understand what I'm saying, on this board right here that the brother got up here on this platform right now that y'all was looking at right here,
Okay.
Houston, Texas, whatever it was.
Uh-huh.
Okay, it has a rate that the broker got posted.
Right.
Here next to it, it has another rate. And if I look down that column, the rate that the broker is posting is always shorter than the rate over here. So what I'm saying is got to be some for me to be able to check to see if I'm getting a fair. Because I see it's about
Well,
this is what I'm
it's
giving
doing it
take.
for you.
no
Listen,
no
it's doing it for you. It's already giving you the
All of
stuff.
them not gonna have, but all of them not gonna have that on there though, right?
no. That's why I said
All of them not gonna have that
you
over there for me, right?
no, but
Correct.
you keep
So listen to this. So the first starting point for you is remember when you got your carrier set up with you to dispatch for them. On that one sheet, that carrier profile, the carrier told you how much they want to make cents per mile. Remember on the carrier profile, you got the dispatch agreement, the carrier
Uh-huh.
profile, and the limited power of attorney, right?
Okay.
So
Yes, sir.
on the carrier profile, let's go there. So
Yeah. Yep.
I'm gonna answer your question for you. I'm gonna answer your question for you. So on the carrier profile, one of the categories on there, or one of the uh, points on there is how much they want per mile, right? So right here, cents per mile. So that's your starting point. So let's say he wanted $2.50 a mile. So let's say you had a carrier had a drive-in or a flatbed, they wanted $2.50 per mile on this here on the carrier profile. Okay. So that carrier, let's say I'm your carrier. I have a flatbed. I want every load you find for me, Jamal. I want at least $2.50 a mile. Right? You with me so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now you get to a load board. Well, these loads are not $2.50 a mile. This one, the broker posted it at $27.50. That's $1.68 a mile. How do we know? Because $27.50 divided by the number of miles, 1638 is, if you do it on the calculator, that's 168. Even the spot market rate, the average rate, 31.12 is not 250 a mile because that's $1.90. If you take 31.12 and divide 1638 by that, that's going to give you $1.90. So how would you know what your carrier wanted? If you were trying to negotiate with Circle Logistics to get your carrier 250 a mile, how would you know what number that is? Well, you would take your carrier's rate, what they want, $2.50 a mile, and multiply it times the distance that lane is running, which in this case is 1638, right? So what does that equal? What is $2.50 a mile times 1638 miles, 1,638 miles? That is 4,095, basically 4,100, right? I just did it in the background real quick on the calculator. It's $4,095, 40.95. Okay. That's what it is. Now, if you're trying to get your carrier exactly what they want, cents per mile, then this is what you're trying to negotiate to, or maybe even include your dispatch, your percentage in that number. Okay.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Because, I'm trying to get my fee from the broker. I ain't trying to charge the carrier.
Correct.
So I'm really
correct.
trying to negotiate the fee to where I reach my threshold, and
Correct.
then I can, what I'm saying, I can, I can get. I know it's not going to always work that way. I understand it's not going to always work that way, and the
Right.
carrier probably have to understand that also.
Right.
But
Right.
that's my goal. That's my objective. But I just want to know, and thank you for sharing with me, what numbers to plug in to see
Well,
around
your baseline starting point will always be what your carrier wants cents per mile. Now, sometimes you got to be realistic with your carrier too. Sometimes that cents per mile may not agree with what the market dictates for that equipment type. Flatbeds or dry vans or reefers may not be paying $2.50 a mile right now in today's market, right?
Right.
And you will know that by looking at the analytics, like trend lines. You'll see in trend lines that dry van and flatbeds and reefers in certain areas pay maybe $2 a mile, not $2.50. And you got to share with your carrier, hey man, I know you want $2.50 a mile, but right now the market is only dictating $2 a mile. Are you willing to wiggle a little bit? Yes or no, and then see what they say.
So just like we was talking about campaigning and trying to market for the carriers, throwing in and having a factoring company available to be able to usher them on into this experience. Also having a relationship with the brokers, because really he's setting the rate. When he posted up on the low board, the brokers are setting the rates, and knowing that you're trying to just, what I'm saying, everybody get paid. You know what I'm saying? You get paid, we get paid, everybody get paid.
Right, but
So
you got to.
How do you
got to be careful not to the everybody get paid philosophy. You don't want to do that to the point where you're squeezing money from the carrier side more so from the broker side. Right? You want to make sure your carrier is getting their worth at the same time you're getting your worth as a dispatcher for your service, utilizing the rates from the broker. Okay.
So those numbers you just gave me a while ago to plug in to get to 250. Say for instance, if the carrier wanted 250 per mile, you remember how you just plugged that in?
Right. You would take what they want. You would take what they want per mile, and you would multiply it by the number of miles on a particular lane, on a particular shipment. Like in this example, El Paso, Texas to New Albany, Ohio. The distance between El Paso, Texas that carrier has to drive to New Albany, Ohio is right here where it says trip, the trip miles, 1638, right? On this screen. See that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if your carrier wants 250 a mile going that distance, then you would just multiply, well, how much are they expecting? Well, 250 a mile times 1,638 miles. Well, that's $4,095. Right? Well, these numbers are well below that, right? Which says that the market is well below what the carrier is anticipating to get paid for that. Right? And that may be across the board.
Right.
So
I got it. I got you. I got you, bro. I got you. I think you answered my question.
Okay, okay.
But
Okay.
what I wanted to ask you was how can you develop a relationship with brokers? Because like I said, they the ones posting on the load boards. You got to get the what's that when you get them onboarded, you get the carrier onboarded with the broker, right?
Correct. So
Correct.
how do you start building relationships with brokers is first of all, you got to build relationships with carriers in such a way that they're willing to move loads with those brokers. You got to build relationships with brokers by sending them carriers who are willing to pick up their loads on time, transport them safely and securely from the shipper to the receiver without any incident, deliver on time, no OS&Ds, overs, shorts, or damages, and do that consistently through your carrier. So your job as a dispatcher is on the carrier side, making sure that they do what they're supposed to do by the broker. And then your job as a dispatcher on the broker side is to make sure that the broker gives the carrier the money that they're worth. So you have a balancing act to perform as a dispatcher on both sides, the carrier side and the broker side. Okay.
Right. Yes, sir.
But it starts with the carrier. You got to get that relationship with the carrier. So
Yeah,
I
and
see your hand.
once you build up your relationship with your broker, because for the last 7 years, I've had a contract with a broker hauling watercress seedlings out of Tennessee to Florida, and my daughter does it now. And as long as she can keep carriers on it, they're on time. They always call every year and offer it to us.
See how that goes. So that's consistency. Now that's almost like is that a dedicated lane?
Yes, yes.
See, so that's how it starts. So communication, building relationships, doing things on time with your communication between you and your carrier, and communication between you and the broker, and then fusing the two, right? And that you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have hiccups in the process along the way. No one's perfect, right? But just continue to press forward, right? So let me get Cherie before we get off because we're running out of time here. Miss Cherie.
Is there a way to see what the real amount of the deal is outside of the broker?
Not unless you are a carrier with the new laws, you could file to see it. But with the when you fill out these new carrier packages, if you don't read the fine print, they
Right.
probably got it in there somewhere. No, you can't tell. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
What it could be paying $10,000. That's that broker business. The point is, what is your guy's bottom line? See, don't think that if you see a load on there for $1,000 that is really paying 5,000. It don't work that way. No.
Ask the question.
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead, Shafty.
Okay. What she was asking. So would we, as a dispatcher, get in trouble for calling the shipper directly? Not that we're booking with the shipper, but just to find out, okay, hey, I have I see that you have this such and such load going out. I just wanted to know about how much I'm a dispatcher, about how much do you have this load moving for?
Click.
Oh, no.
Click. No, I'm gonna answer that. Click.
No,
So you
yeah,
can say
yeah,
I'm a
click.
dispatcher. I'm a shipper. I'm gonna pretend to be the shipper right now. You just call me and say, "Hey, I'm a dispatcher." I'm just curious to know what is this load. I'm trying to book a load for my kid. Click. Shippers do not deal with dispatchers.
Okay.
Also, too, if you fill out that carrier package, it's a non-compete clause in there.
Correct.
Yeah, so that you can be sued. And it's like sometimes a year, 2-3 years, you can't go back. So no.
Okay. I mean, I already knew. That's what she was wanting to know. So I just wanted you to kind of
Because
play it
I'm
out.
a major shipper, right? I'm in charge of moving multi-million dollars of freight every day. I get a phone call from a dispatcher, like, why is a dispatcher calling me? I'm usually talking to carriers and brokers, right?
Yeah.
As a shipper. I don't have time to talk to, and I'm not saying that you dispatchers are beneath. I'm just saying.
And let's also tell them this too, Charles, real quick. The majority of the time, the shipper don't even know who the customer is. So just say you're at a warehouse. well, they know who the customer is, but that's not necessarily the customer, the shipper. So if you call and say, hey, let me, I just hauled a load, it could be for Bassett chairs, but they're just a warehouse shipping for them.
Right. Right, correct. So there's a lot of integral parts, moving parts in that process on the shipping side. And if a dispatcher tries to wiggle into that world, they're going to be gravely disappointed.
Yes.
So it's so, for lack of a better word, as dispatchers, you may want to just stay in your lane when it comes to that process and start off as new dispatchers, just focusing on your carrier side and that relationship with the broker. The broker
Yeah.
has a better relationship with the customer, the shipper, because that's who they are getting the loads from. That's who tendered the freight to the brokers, are the shippers. And that's who the brokers are chopping their margins off the monies from, are the shippers, and then posting the monies on the load boards to the trucks. They're getting that stuff from the shippers, right? So the brokers have a more of a intimate relationship with customers, shippers, than a dispatcher will ever have, right?
But as a carrier, would I be able to find out what the real rate is? Because it just seems
No.
like the brokers are taking a lot of money.
No, once again, I
Okay.
broker every day too. And I'm not just saying that I have a trucking company I drive every day too. Us brokers are not that powerful to extort mainly like your big companies to it, or your small companies to pay over value for what these loads are moving for. No.
Yeah.
So I think they're cutting in too deep. I'm not saying that they're pricing too high. I'm thinking they're cutting in too deep.
They're not only cutting into, they're amputating. So,
they're amputating.
Yeah, but what determines that is, if I have a load that pays $2,000 and I'm trying to get it moved for $1,000, and it's 3 trucks in town. Okay, yes, I may be able to get it moved for 15, but if no, it's 1,000 trucks in town, so everybody's competing for that load. You can move, so it depends on the conditions. It depends on a lot of what that load is going to move for, than just that broker is holding on to that money. I just received a tender from M&W Warehouse. They warehouse for Mahatma Rice, Tabasco, huge. Now they send over a tender telling us how much fuel they're going to pay, detention time, and what sort of the average will be. You're not going to get them.
Right. So it's a different world on the broker / shipper relationship.
Yeah. So don't worry your mind with it, because at the end of the day, it's going to boil down to, what do you need to move that load?
The carrier.
Because a lot of times these big carriers, what they do, just say if they're moving 500 loads a day, it may be 50 loads in there to where they had to take money off other loads to move it, but they still made money.
Right.
Now the dispatchers, who they get paid by
the driver.
Great question. So who are you initially contracting with? Who's your dispatcher agreement between you and who? That's the driver.
Okay.
The dispatch agreement on there has you're setting up your dispatch agreement, your contract you're setting that relationship between you and that owner operator. Hey, I'm providing this dispatch service for this flat fee or this percentage per load. If you agree to these services and these points, sign here or whatever, right? On the dispatcher agreement. So
does the dispatcher get paid off top before that load even moves, or say it's already guaranteed? Okay, this driver, everything's signed, that driver has a load. So does the dispatcher get paid right away, or is it after the driver delivers?
Good question. Let me give you a scenario to help answer that. You book a load for me. You're my dispatcher. You book a load for me. I pay you prior to me getting paid for moving that load. The load gets canceled, as far as a tone for whatever reason. I don't get paid, but I already paid you, right? So would that be fair to me to pay you for something that I didn't
haven't moved yet? Right.
Right. So the answer to your question is, the dispatcher gets paid after the carrier gets paid. After they get paid for that load, whether through factoring, through the broker, or direct customer, then you invoice them for your service, for your fee.
Or it just depends on what you and that driver has worked out. Because like I said, you may be working with a guy to where you use that person day to day, and dispatchers, if you don't hear me say anything else, have 1,000 ways to get paid. Accept no excuses and have 1,000 ways to get paid.
Right.
And what I mean by that, if they have to do you a come check,
Venmo,
PayPal,
Zelle, whatever.
Venmo,
Yeah.
have 1,000 ways to get paid, because you need your money.
Yes.
Right.
Now, if the carrier damaged the load, do that fall on the dispatcher?
No,
No.
it has nothing to do with you.
At all.
Oh, okay.
And in the dispatch agreement, there is verbiage there to eliminate you from any and all claims, because literally you're not in that truck with the carrier. You didn't help them cause that process. You weren't responsible to making sure that freight was secure prior to closing those doors and putting on those putting that how would you call that thing?
Seals and locks?
Seal on the putting the seal on the lock on the door, anything like that. You wasn't there when they was transporting it in traffic. You wasn't there when the pallet shifted, when they made a turn too sharp and the pallet shift and the straps snapped and the pallets got damaged. You wasn't in the truck with them on that. That is totally on the carrier. And there's verbiage in the dispatch agreement saying that the dispatcher is removed from any and all claims, and carrier is still responsible for paying the dispatchers for services rendered.
Okay.
Because you still booked that load for them. It's not your fault that it got delivered damaged and it got rejected by the receiver, right? That's not your fault.
Okay. Now, just ask you one more question about this.
Go ahead, go ahead.
When it comes to the rate check, now the broker already know that that rate check is what it is. So he was sent out like the one going to El Paso
Okay.
to Albany. Now he already know the rate check. So he would why would he put out 2,007 why we put out 2,750?
Because he's trying to make money. So everybody's trying to make money. On the broker side, he's trying to increase his profit margin. On the carrier side, they're trying to get their money. They're trying to increase their profit margin. On the shipper side,
right now
the shippers are trying to increase their profit margin. They are selling a customer had bought product from a shipper for, let's say, $10,000, right? So the shipper says, okay, I'm gonna move my products from my warehouse to your receiving facility, and you pay me $10,000. I'm gonna either do it directly through a trucking company or go through a broker. So let's say, for instance, in this example, they went through a broker, Circle Logistics. So they say, okay, I'm gonna give you, Mr. Or any broker that come to me to try to negotiate, bid on this lane, El Paso, Texas to New Albany, Ohio. So Circle Logistics won the bid for the lowest price that the shipper was willing to pay on that tender. Let's say it was $4,000, right? Because this rate check says 3,100. So let's say they won it for the shipper's willing to give $4,000 to a broker, and that's non-negotiable. So in this example, Circle Logistics took that tender for $4,000. Now the market dictates that it's paying 31. So they're already winning. They got a low tender for 4,000. The truck gets about 3,200, maybe 35. They post it for 31, or the market says 31. The broker said, okay, I'm going to post it for a little bit less than that to see if I can make some extra money. So I posted it for $27.50. That's how that works. That's the game.
Hey, Charles, let me ask the young lady, and not just, trying to be, an asshole or anything, but what do you think? Well, I ask all you guys, what do you think is fair for a broker to make? $50 off a load, $20 off a load, 100. Just say if it's 1,000. I'm gonna give you. Say if the load pays $1,000, what do you think is fair for that broker to make off that load?
Here's what's fair. The carrier cannot be walking away with a break-even deal or close to a break-even deal because the broker is keeping all the money.
Okay.
I would say the rate would be 150. If that load paid $1,000, okay, instead of the broker getting, say $500. I would say I think the broker should get 150.
No, but that's not. But that's not what the problem is.
Or a percentage.
The problem is gas and time and wear and tear.
No,
that's on the carrier.
But yeah, that's your, your bottom line. Let's not worry about that. Let's stick to the issue of, he said $150. What do other people think that broker should get out of that load?
So I think the broker should definitely not get, if the shipper's paying $1,000 for that load to be tendered and get moved from their shipping facility to the receiver, a broker should not get 50% of that, 500. Obviously, the carrier should get a fair.
Exactly, the carrier should get the lion's share.
Right. So let's say
broker should get the small.
Let's say 75%.
Let me just make this one point. The broker should never put the carrier out there so that they are barely making it. Like they're almost at a break-even point just to get this load done because they're keeping too much money.
Right.
Now, what type of, as a broker, out of that $1,000, what do you think I would have to pay in order for me to move that load? Because it costs money for me to move that load.
As a broker,
I just can't say as a broker, I only want to make $25 off this load. I only want to make $50 off this load. What do you think I have to pay as a broker?
Well, here's what you're not paying. You're not paying for gas.
It's going to be hard to.
No. I'm not paying gas, but this is what I'm paying. More than likely, you're going to want a cash. More than likely, you're going to want a cash advance.
Right. That costs.
More than likely, if you're not set up with a factoring company, you're going to want quick pay.
That costs.
More than likely. So just say once everything is said and done. So I deal with the factoring company too. I'm not going to give you my money because the customer pays.
Factoring company.
No, so okay, so that's no problem. So the customer pays every 60 days.
Right.
So that means I have to factor that. So I have to pay a percentage too. Every week that customer don't pay, they take 1% off of that money.
From the broker.
Also, yes, from the broker. Right. Also too, like I said, it costs. So out of that $1,000, it might cost me $125 to broker that load.
So to say that you want $200 off of that $1,000, 1/5, 20%, would that be fair?
Yeah.
So $1,000 out of $1,000, you get 20% of that. So you get 200. The carrier gets 800. So that'll be a fair. Would that be fair?
Yes, and once again, that you guys are not looking at that broker has serious costs on their side. I'm not talking about the big boys. They do too, but they're moving enough volume. But there's no one out here right now that are getting a load for $1,000 and moving it for $500 because the customer is not that crazy. I deal with a lot of foreigners. Don't even try. Don't even try it. They already know down to the T. They know down to the T. And look, all these big corporations have logistic companies. They know down to the T. They're not gonna give but so much money to move those loads. So just say if my customers say, hey, that lane is. I know what I wanted to say. Don't look at those average rates as rates. It's just an average because you could have two loads coming out of the same warehouse. Let's just say cold storage number 1 has 2 loads coming out of cold storage number 1 going to Kroger's in Atlanta from McDonough, Georgia, probably 20 miles. One load is a load of frozen French fries that pays $500. The next load is a load of ice cream that pays $1,400. Now, just imagine if they was just only showing the average on those French fries. Would you accept that?
Great point.
So what I'm saying is don't get caught up in the averages with that because it's just an average.
But it's interesting to know the cost that the broker is experiencing as well, because up until the point that you answered this question, I just thought they were being greedy.
Oh no, look, some do, but it's a situation. no, it's a situations to where they got you down by your throat. You know, you're in an area you needed it, or it's a lot of trucks there, but just on a average lane, no, no.
Case by case and situational.
There
If
you go.
Yeah, it's situational and case by case, but we go over those concepts from the broker's perspective in our broker training that we usually have. This is, obviously dispatcher training, but it's good as a dispatcher if you are well-rounded in the sense, if you have an understanding, at least from a marginal perspective, of what some of the cost of brokering is involved in. Maybe you'll say, okay, now I kind of understand why certain brokers are doing it this way. But if you see numbers that are ridiculous, you say, well, okay, this broker is just greedy, right? But you see other brokers that you say, okay, they're at least trying to be close to a fair wage that they're going to offer the carrier. Then that broker is kind of a little bit understanding, a little bit fair. So as a dispatcher, the more information, just like Sherry just said, you're hearing this now from a broker's perspective, which is Carlos. He broker, so he understands his cost of doing business from a broker's perspective. So to LaDonna brokers. She's a broker, so we know the cost of certain things that's involved in that.
Because that's how I got into your class in the first place. I was like, oh, these brokers have got to go.
Yeah. Now there are some good. Now I don't want to give all brokers a bad name because there are some good brokers out there, and some are coming back saying that, look, we got to realize that we need these carriers. Without the carriers, we're not making any money. We can't invoice or send a freight bill to a shipper for a tender that we agreed to do if the carrier is not moving it for a fair wage. The carrier is going to refuse it, reject it, or whatever, not even pick it up. So
Well, like I said, it all depends on area, region, but right now the economy is so bad. You're only going to get those rates in spurts. Like I say, during the holidays, when the 4th of July hit, a week and a half just before it hit, it pumps up. Then it rides out. Then you have your Labor Day, it rides out. You have your Halloween, it rides out. You have your Christmas, your Thanksgiving, it rides out. It has your Christmas. Then after Christmas, it really depends on what area you're in. A lot goes flat.
Right. So seasons, basically.
It's season. So,
May I say something?
Yeah,
yes.
go ahead.
Okay, so I'm a truck driver, and I haul chemicals. So, and I understand what you're saying. It's, seasonal. It could be different variables. Okay, so at the beginning of the year, we were hauling chemicals, and the rates were really low, and drivers were complaining. So after the bridge collapsed, and then railroad talking about striking. So now it's hard to move those loads. They're really trying to get truck drivers to move these chemical loads. And so now the rates have spiked. So the rates in the beginning of the year, so say I did a load from Geismar, Louisiana to Shelby, in the beginning of the year, that load may have paid line haul, not paying to me, a line haul $5,200. Now with the mention of strike from railroad, it's paying $7,000.
That's right.
So that's almost a $2,000 jump because of the situation.
That's correct.
Yeah. So like you said, we never know when a situation is going to come up or the average is how it's moving. That's why I say it all depends on your driver you're dispatching, their bottom line.
And the circumstance and situation. So, man, this is so good. I can go on all. We over our time, obviously. We're 8 minutes over, but I love these conversations, but they're so good. But I know we're over our time, and my moderator has already let me know that. But we're good. So we'll end it here tonight. This is a recording. I'll have it on our portal later this evening or early tomorrow morning. But as always, Mr. Carlo and I, we're probably going to have a conversation about creating a more advanced, a next level dispatch training later on to kind of help even further, because he already mentioned that to me that he's willing to do that. So, but I'm thankful that you guys came in. Lorraine, I think I invited you as a guest. I was talking to you on the phone. Are you okay?
Yes.
Okay, good, good. So you got some of your questions, or all of your questions, I'm assuming, answered, or at least most of them?
Yes, I appreciate that.
No problem. And as always, guys, thank Mr. Carlos, one of my mentors coming in here that I lean on for information and guys, because you have to have a network of good people that does it and is willing to share as well, right? And no ill intent, no malice whatsoever. So always good to have him come on. He actually texted me prior and said, "Hey man, when's your next Zoom?" I said, "Tonight, 30 minutes. Come on in." So that's always a good thing. When Mr. Nelson gets back from Africa, you think Mr. Carlos is wait till him and Mr. Nelson get together. You guys are gonna be able to get a word in edgewise because they're gonna be talking. But it's good information. So that's the beauty of it. And it's recorded. That's even better. So you can go back and watch it over and over and over to your heart's content. So, but I appreciate you guys. I'm thankful that you chose our Logistics Learning Center, the Dispatcher 101 training. Hopefully you'll get to a point where you get a carrier, start dispatching. Take advantage of the 123 load board. If you want to get a load board without having an MC number, I'll put the promo code in the description of this video, and we'll go from there. All right. Until next time, which we'll see. Today's Wednesday, will be Saturday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. That'll be our next dispatch training. All right. Until then, have a great week. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be safe. Be careful. Any questions for me, give me a call. I'm always transparent. You guys know my number.
Have a good one.
Right. All right, guys.
All right, Charles.
All right. And thank you, Mr. Carlos, once again.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you.
Carlos.
All right.